Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and I have a colleague who'll be joining shortly. So my name is Jake Arbuckle. I manage the immigration programs, worker programs, particularly for New Brunswick, the government of New Brunswick, which is one of the Eastern Canadian provinces that you'll talk about and learn about for the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to talk briefly about Canada's East Coast. As was mentioned, we're not Toronto or Vancouver, both wonderful places, very expensive places as well. So you'll see a lot of I should say, contrasts with the quality of life you would get in one of these larger cities versus the quality of life you would get in Atlantic Canada. So obviously we're on the Atlantic Ocean. We're actually a 6-hour flight to Dublin, so that's quite quick. It's actually quicker to fly to Dublin than it is for me to drive to Boston, which is not too far from New Brunswick. So very proximate. These are the 4 provinces, and we only have New Brunswick and Nova Scotia today. Our colleagues from the other 2 were unable to come. However, all 4 provinces are very similar culturally, linguistically, geographically. Our labor markets are very similar. Our quality of lives are very similar. So you're going to hear about New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Just imagine that the other 2 provinces are pretty much the same in many ways. So here we are, clearly on the eastern coast. You can see how we can fly over here fairly quickly. And we did. Actually, I was in London yesterday. It took me almost as long to drive to the airport as it would to fly to Dublin from Canada. So the traffic congestion that you experience in London in particular, and Dublin is much better, but still you would not experience that in Atlantic Canada. So we're the closest point to Europe, as it says here. We're very close to the US. Canada does most trade with the United States, over 80%. Atlantic Canada is no different, and it takes about an hour, maybe 2 hours to drive to the US from pretty much anywhere in New Brunswick, so it's very close. The climate is similar to yours, but also very different in certain ways. We have 4 very distinct seasons. So we do have winter. You probably have winter as well. I know you do, but it's a little bit different than ours. Ours is much whiter, so do be prepared. If you come to Atlantic Canada, you will have to endure a few months of cold snow, but there are many things you can do, as I'll show you in a few minutes. Beautiful summers, and of course right now we are here. The entire region is exploding in color. The leaves are vibrant red, orange, and not much green left, regrettably, but it's all very pretty. Lifestyle is extremely important to us, probably similar to yours. So we have a very skilled and well-educated workforce. We have jobs in all different parts of the economy, from basic entry jobs to high-skilled neurosurgeons. So there's all sorts of opportunities there across the entire region. Education systems are very good, very affordable. Public education is free, and university and college education is much, much cheaper than what you would see south of the Canadian border in the United States in particular. Lots of opportunities for employment or business, and of course the cost of living, as I mentioned, is extremely low compared to other parts of Canada. And I'll show you some specifics on that in a few minutes. Commuting times, they're practically non-existent, which is quite wonderful. I have family who live in Toronto. It takes them an hour and a half to get to work and back, so that's 3 hours a day they spend on a bus, a train, or a car. I spend considerably shorter time, and I'll explain to that in a moment. Very welcoming, friendly communities all across the region. Atlantic Canadians are known to be very hospitable and welcome people, similar to the Irish people. So we're very similar, probably because many people that live there come from Ireland, right? And of course, balanced lifestyle. We all work very hard, but we also enjoy our leisure time. And I'm sure you do as well. So I'll talk very quickly about New Brunswick, because that's my province. That's where I'm from. That's what I represent. And small population, 747,000 people. Very small, probably a fraction of the population of Dublin. That's the entire province of about 72,000 square kilometers. So we have lots of space, lots of real estate, lots of opportunities. We're very close to other Canadian provinces, and again, you can see here that we can fly to other parts of Canada very quickly. I think it's about 13 hours to drive from my house to Toronto, if you so desire to have that painful journey. Also, New Brunswick is the only officially bilingual province in Canada. Canada is an officially bilingual country, English and French. New Brunswick is the only province in which this is the case. 30% of our people speak French, 70% speak English, and about 5% speak languages that are not English nor French. We also have a very bilingual population. I would say 40 to 50% of New Brunswickers speak both French and English, some very basically, some very advanced. Basically, your kids, if they were to be educated in the public school system, would end up graduating being able to speak both official languages of Canada. So we have very wonderful rivers, lakes, oceans. They're very pristine. They're not polluted. So if you jump into a river, you will leave the river pretty much the same way you entered it. Your skin will not be compromised by pollution, so that's very good. And we have a mixture of cities and towns. And this picture gives you an idea that you could actually operate a farm or live in a rural area, and you could still drive to your job in the city in 10 or 12 minutes. So there's a great diversity of places you can live. And this gives you an idea of our 4 seasons that I referenced earlier, and of course spring, summer, winter, and the beautiful fall. These are the average temperatures in New Brunswick. It does get colder, so for example, there are days, I won't lie, in December and January where the temperature dips below 20 degrees centigrade, negative 20 degrees centigrade. However, you would adapt very quickly. You just need to dress for it. T-shirts are out, but winter coats and toques, as we call them, are always in at that time. Spring is wonderful. Summer gets hotter. It gets to be 35 degrees centigrade, which is perfect for all the water that we have. You can swim, obviously beaching, boating, fishing, other outdoor activities. So you can do this in the winter. You can basically take your child, tuck them into an old car tube and throw them down a hill, and it's perfectly legally and morally permitted. So it's very good in that regard. That's how you get through the winter, enjoying yourself with your family. And again, because you don't spend time commuting, you have all that extra time to do other things. Of course, our beautiful beaches are always available from June through September. Public and private beaches, so you can drive along the highway, along the coast, park your car, jump out, dive into this ocean that basically belongs to you, because we have lots of private spaces that no one uses, so it's a good advantage. Housing costs. Here's the conversion to the euro. So 1 Canadian dollar is about 67 European cent, and a housing cost in Canada is over $500,000 Canadian dollars. If you go to Toronto and Vancouver, it reaches $1 million. The average housing cost in New Brunswick is about $177,000. So it's the cheapest housing cost, not the cheapest quality, it's excellent quality, but cost is the lowest in the country. So you can see here, cheapest housing cost in Canada. And this is kind of a basic house you could get. This is about 135,000 euros. That is about 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. That's in the city, backyard, deck, barbecue, and so on. You can see it's by itself. It's not stuck to another house or on top of another house. It's all yours. This one's a little bit bigger, for about 200,000 euro, and that could be yours as well. We have lots of homes available across the province, across the different cities. Another advantage is that if you immigrate, so for example, if you get a job from a New Brunswick employer, they support you, we will put you through our immigration programs. We have a bunch of programs. We'll find the one that fits you and your family best. If you are successful, you are able to access universal medical coverage from the moment you arrive. So the day you step off the airplane as a permanent resident, and should you, knock on wood you don't, twist your ankle or break your leg down the airplane steps, you don't have to pay anything. You're covered. You'll be covered for Medicare. However, some provinces of Canada, it takes 3 months to become covered. So we do it the moment you arrive, so that's very good for you and your family. It does not cover your dental and your eyeglasses. Usually the companies you would work for, they co-pay with you. So you guys both pay into an insurance scheme that covers those types of expenses. Also, education, I mentioned, is free. Public education, you pay for it through taxes. We have an excellent education system all across Atlantic Canada. And of course, the good thing about it is that it doesn't matter where you live, an affluent, wealthy neighborhood or a less affluent neighborhood, you're going to get the same quality of education, the same quality of instruction, irrespective of where you live in any Canadian jurisdiction. Whereas in the US, if you're in a rich neighborhood, you get a much better quality of education. Doesn't apply in Canada. So it's very good in that regard. Very affordable post-secondary education in New Brunswick. The tuition, the cost to go is quite low. And we also have French and English universities, French and English colleges. And of course, if your children go, as I mentioned, to public school, they will be bilingual when they graduate, which gives them a big advantage in the labor market when they grow up. These are the main industries we have. So a lot of primary industries, agriculture, aquaculture, fisheries, because we're by the coast. manufacturing, and so on. These are the sectors that we have in demand. So information technology, hospitality, restaurant management, transportation. So we have 2 companies here that are actively recruiting in Ireland. We have Armour Transportation Systems, which is a preeminent transportation company that we have in Moncton, New Brunswick. They're looking for experienced long-haul drivers. Very good wages. It pays above the provincial median wage. It's a good job. It's a good paying job. And we also have Franchise Management Inc. They are looking for people in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia to be managers and supervisors in restaurants all across the region. So if you're in those 2 particular skill sets, I deeply encourage you to go and meet with those companies. They would love to meet with you and discuss your qualifications and see if you can find a place in their organization and therefore in one of our provinces. I'm also looking for nurses as well. So we have health recruiters who are looking to recruit nurses from Ireland. So if you are a nurse, please come visit us way, way, way over on the other side of this monstrous building, and we'll be happy to talk with you. And of course, once you come, you will not be left alone. You will have a bunch of support services available for you and your family to help your partner integrate into the labor market, language training, help your kids get into school, all those types of things that you would normally worry about when you're migrating to another country. There are a lot of services we fund to support that type of transition. And this is our labor market board, nbjobs.ca. You can find all the jobs available in New Brunswick on a daily basis on this site. We have a card at the back in our booth that has all this information. And this is our immigration site where you can find out everything about our programs. And should you be interested, please come speak to us and we can talk about our immigration programs for you. And that will be it for New Brunswick. And, oh, there we go. So I have my colleague from Nova Scotia who will come speak to you about Nova Scotia. So thank you for your attention. And we are available for questions later on, probably not here because we only have 9 minutes, but you can come speak with us at our booths about anything you want to know regarding New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, immigration, etc. Thank you. No, it's okay. No problem.
All righty.
Hook you up here somehow.
Okay, so we are just miking up our next colleague, and then we'll be hearing about Nova Scotia, which will be...
Actually, why don't you just use that mic?
Can I just use your mic?
Yeah, sure.
I was going to set her up quickly.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we're going to just a bit of on the run here.
Give me 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, we need to get my presentation
We do need to finish by around 12:30. So.
up. 10 minutes.
You
I
got
talk
it.
quickly.
Me too.
So we're just changing the
That's my
presentation,
clicker.
and here we go. In fact,
Go right.
we can use these microphones. Okay.
Okay, everyone can hear me okay? I'm never known to be quiet, so thank you. I appreciate that. Hi folks, my name is Shelley Bent. I'm the Director of Programs with the Nova Scotia Office of Immigration, and we're here today basically to tell you why you should choose Nova Scotia. If you're looking to immigrate, why choose Nova Scotia over New Brunswick or any other province? And I did have a lovely video that we're not able to run. So I'll just go through the slides. But the one thing, I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to talk really quickly, and I apologize for that. If you do have any questions or are looking for any more information, please come and see us. We're located on the other end, and we're front and center as soon as you walk into the room. So you can't miss us. We're there. There's 3 of us, and more than happy to answer any questions you might have. So one thing about Nova Scotia, which looks really, really tiny on the map here, but we kind of look like a lobster a little bit if you look really closely. We are smaller geographically than Ireland, but our population is a lot less as well. So we're just under 1 million people, and one of the reasons that our province has actually been growing over the last number of years is directly attributed to immigration. So we have a very welcoming province, very open, and are really looking for folks to come and take some of the advantages that are there. And I apologize because I know I'm going to talk really fast. So we need people. that's why we're here. That's why we're going out, because Nova Scotia, we're in need of people because we have jobs that are going unfulfilled. We have employers who are looking for workers. And the last look that we did, which was 2 days ago before we left, there were over 3,200 jobs that were posted on careersnovascotia.ca. So if you come and talk to us, it's one of the sites that we're going to tell you about. And it's an opportunity to go in and search for any job in any occupation in the province. As long as it's been posted on an outward-facing site, that site actually pulls from all of them, and so it's a one-stop shop. So you can look at the opportunity that's available, you can look at the job range that's available in your field, and what the prospects are for the next 5 years. So it's a great resource and a great tool. Obviously, in a number of different sectors, our government has identified 6 key business sectors: ocean sector, IT services, obviously, natural resources, financial services. The aerospace, defense, and shipbuilding industry is starting to grow substantially because Halifax was actually able to secure a contract for the Canadian Navy, and they're building naval ships there. So there are opportunities that are there currently and will be opening in the future. So again, great resources there as well. And obviously, the seafood sector, my reference to lobster. We obviously are situated on the ocean, so seafood industry is a large industry for our province. So a lot of work that's available there. Nova Scotia is, I'm out of breath. Nova Scotia is built for business, so we are a gateway to North America. We have a number of flights that come in routinely from overseas. And we have a pre-clearance for U.S. So a number of flights that come through, you'll actually clear customs and be able to fly through into the U.S. It's a highly educated workforce, so a large number of people working have more than post-secondary education, higher than post-secondary. So they're a lot, highly educated, lots of opportunities. And I'm going to just skip over that slide. So again, as Jake had referenced, we do have 4 seasons. And so I know I've spoken to a couple of people this morning who have asked me, does it get cold? Yes, it does. But unless you're going to be out working in construction, maybe you'll be outside all throughout the seasons. Otherwise, it's a personal choice whether you want to go out or not. Absolutely, there are all kinds of things to do. There is outdoor skating, there's hockey, obviously, Canada's sport. And actually, Windsor, Nova Scotia is the birthplace of hockey in Canada, so a little plug for Nova Scotia there. But there's skating, there's snowshoeing, there's skiing, so there are a number of opportunities in winter. And then in the summertime, we have surfing, swimming, hiking, obviously a number of nature trails, and so there are activities that you can do indoor or outdoors all throughout the year. So the benefits to Nova Scotia, obviously, as Jake referenced again, free healthcare. So the same applies in Nova Scotia as well. Healthcare is free. In the education system, for those of you who have families and small children, Nova Scotia this year just introduced a pre-primary program. So we actually have free education for individuals, children attending public institutions from pre-primary to 12. And then there are 13 community college campuses across the province, as well as 12 different universities. We do have a university that does offer programming in French as well, but unlike New Brunswick, as Jake had referenced, where they are the only bilingual province in Canada, we do have opportunities available in French. They're just not quite as prevalent as you would see in New Brunswick. So the living costs in Nova Scotia, and we've actually done the comparison here in terms of euros, and I have no idea what we used in terms of the conversion rate, but for an average 1-bedroom apartment in the city centre, you're looking at about 520 to 550 euros, and of course that's 1 bedroom and then plus your kitchen, living room, and washroom. And then 2-bedroom in the city centre is probably going to cost you around 700 euro. And that would be inclusive of your water and your electricity as well. The average home purchase price in city centre is about 345 euros. And then in the city suburbs, it's about 200. Again, very comparable to what New Brunswick would have. As you start moving outside of Halifax, though, Halifax is the capital city, and as you start moving outside of that city centre, obviously the cost of real estate starts to decrease. So you can be looking at a 4-bedroom home for about 125 to 135,000 euros. And it is a drivable distance to Halifax. So I used to live about an hour outside the city, and my home would be half the price as what the same home would be inside the city limits. So there is that balance between home and work, which is one of the things that we really talk about in terms of lifestyle in Nova Scotia. It's all about having the balance. So we want to work hard, but we want to play hard as well. The commute time is anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. Of course, that's in the city center, or if you are in some of those smaller towns. As I said, I lived an hour outside. That was a choice for me to do, but it is doable. But for most people, the commute time is under a half hour. From anywhere in the province, you can access beaches. So we were trying to count the beaches one time, and I think we lost count at about 95. So there are a number of different beaches, and you can be at work in downtown Halifax and be at a beach within 40 minutes. And that's extreme. I've been told you can get there in 25, but I don't know how fast they're driving. So I think 40 minutes is probably pretty good to say. So again, it's all about just having, green space, open air, and the ability to just choose the life that you want to live. So this is just immigration overview. I'm not going to go into that too much because I know I only have 2 minutes, but this is just one slide. So someone had mentioned to me this morning how complex immigration can be. And if you look at this slide, this is actually all of the ways that you could come through to come to Canada. And I'm just going to yell. And this side here is actually Nova Scotia in the green. So that's the way that you would come through us for the first step towards permanent residency. So you can see there are a number of different ways that you can come, but come through the green way because it's going to be the easier way for you to come. And if you have any questions, this is our website, so novascotiaimmigration.com.
PhoneWatch is Irish.
And there's an
parent
email
company is
address
Norwegian.
we do actually respond to. So if you have any questions, you can
1991,
email us. We'll get back to you.
Ireland,
And if you have any
Vancouver,
questions today,
originally,
again, we're
bought
straight
out
through
in
the doors on the
2014,
other
covers
end
my
and more
life.
than happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
So, questions for either of our guests? No one just yet.
Yeah, no worries. That's fine.
And,
Yeah, just give me a thumbs up.
No, fisticuffs. Any questions? From the audience.
Gentleman right here.
Yes, sir. Tax rates.
Yeah, good. For $100,000 income,
Yeah, that's fine.
your taxation for $100,000 income in New Brunswick would be about 12 provincial. I'd say you'd be taxed at about 30 to 33,000 Canadian.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be the same for Nova Scotia.
And that's what pays for these wonderful roads and hospitals and schools and all these things. So yeah, it's not Scandinavia, but it's not the U.S. either. So it's kind of in the middle. With here, okay, perfect, good.
Oh, that is okay. Good.
Okay. Yes. The question was asking about face-to-face interaction before looking online in terms of the jobs.
You wanna go? Yeah, sure. Well, for us, as you mentioned, we have a very specific number of companies that are actively recruiting. We're also recruiting on behalf of some healthcare employers, so those 3 sectors are covered off. If you speak with us, obviously at our respective booths, we can capture information if we identify that you're in an area in which there is need. So we will know if there's a labor shortage in what you do in Canada, in New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, and then it's probably not an easy thing for you. But if you are in a critical area that we've identified, we can put you into our spreadsheets and then solicit interest from employers who are looking for your information for your type of deal. Yeah. Yeah. And we have a bunch of different programs, as Shelley mentioned, and each program, many of them are job driven, but there are other opportunities through express entry if you have really high skills in critical areas. So, yeah.
Sorry, can I just say one other thing?
Yeah.
And while there are only 2 companies that are physically present here that are recruiting for Nova Scotia, we do actually have a few other job opportunities. And then, as Jake said, we have a pathway for folks who are in high demand occupations. So we have a pathway that you can come without a job offer, but you need to come and have a chat with us so that we can see what you have and what's the best option for you. Okay.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together again for our 2 Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks very much. My name is Adam Urwin. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for PhoneWatch. Probably not going to be as long a presentation as the one that you've just sat through for Canada. But I'd like to give you an overview of what we do, who we are, and I suppose why we're here today. PhoneWatch is an Irish company formed in 1991 as part of Aircom PhoneWatch. Originally, we were set up to take advantage of the fact that Aircom had the monopoly on the landlines of all the phone users in Ireland. So about 2.2 million households in Ireland, and we had a landline into each of them. So the security side of the business was set up and run separately from Aircom. For 26 years until 2014, at which point the company Sector Alarm Group came knocking on the door and was one of 2 businesses that was in the line to purchase PhoneWatch. They paid a fairly significant sum and bought, at the time, 88,000 customers, as well as the company. Sector is, as you see on the right-hand legend there, they're a Norwegian company, wholly owned. Talk about them a little bit more in a second, but have big plans. We're currently now number 2 in Europe in terms of volume of customers. We are in and around 500,000, and I'll talk a little bit about the different countries. We started in Norway in 1991, and really it was started by a guy called Jørgen Dahl. Jørgen he actually sold window locks to begin the company as a security company, and he set the business up as a direct sales entity. So the majority of our sales function actually goes by visiting customers either in their own homes, residentially. We do go business to business with our SME team, and we also have obviously a fairly extensive in-house sales team too. Currently, our growth strategy is pretty big. As I said, we recently hit the 100,000 mark in Ireland. So for the first time ever, PhoneWatch hit over 100,000 customers. We have a goal group-wide to go to 1 million customers by 2020. And really the way that we do that is through acquisition. You'll notice on the previous slide there, we started in Norway. The second country we opened was Sweden. Sweden currently does somewhere in the region of about 250,000 customers, and we sell, give or take, about 1,000 alarms a week up in Sweden. It's a huge operation. We've got about 38 sales officers up there. We do a slightly different thing to PhoneWatch. Largely, we sell based on our monitored smoke alarms, which is a huge thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about our product and service in a second. We opened Finland in 2015, late 2015, and we currently have about 40 sales guys up there in Helsinki and right up into the north. So they get a little bit different weather than we have, although obviously slightly more challenging in the last week with Ophelia and now Brian. And our most recent country is actually Spain. We are due to go live with sales in Spain on the 30th of October. 56 million people in Spain, so it's a huge market for us to move into. It's actually our biggest market so far as a business, and we are opening in Malaga. So we have a head office in Fuengirola, and we're opening our first sales on the 30th in Malaga. So that's a huge task. They are looking to probably recruit somewhere in the region of about 1,000 salespeople over the course of the next 12 to 24 months. We're starting in Andalusia, and they'll spread out from there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the models in a second. In Ireland, we started as PhoneWatch in 1991. In 2014, when we were bought out, we sort of changed the management structure in terms of the sales, and all of our sales came in-house. So we now currently have 13 sales offices based around the country. We 3 in Dublin, and then everywhere else is kind of single offices. We have 85 salespeople on the road. at the moment, give or take, covering the three main sectors there of residential, events and SME. You may see PhoneWatch vans driving around. There's one that looks a little bit like the A-Team van. That's the one that goes to all the different events. We do things like the Ideal Homes exhibition. Obviously, the big one for us is the Ploughing Championships, where we sign up ridiculous amounts of people. I think some of them possibly have some drink on them. And the really crazy stuff that we do is we actually sell at wedding venues, wedding fairs too. And I was as confused as the gentleman in the third row there. Essentially what we do is we sell to the gentlemen that are at wedding fairs and are completely numb to the money. If anybody here has got married, you'll know that it does cost a few quid. So generally what we do is we sell quite a good offer at these fairs, but we sell quite a lot of different packages at those. Our SME team is quite extensive. We've got about 8 people on the team at the moment. We cover the whole of the Republic of Ireland, run by a lady called Sinead Quinn, who's our business channel manager. It's a relatively new audience and market for us. We have a single pack, if you like, and we're starting to really gain ground in the business security environment at the moment. Our main focus, though, is residential and always will be. And we do, the most of that is through direct sales. So those 85 sales teams that we have, or salespeople that we have on the road, actually go and visit people residentially in their own homes. Let's get past that. I suppose we spend a lot of time as a group talking about culture. It's a big word in business at the moment, and yet if you talk to any of the tech companies, they focus very heavily on this. And essentially in PhoneWatch, our values are our culture. We measure ourselves stringently on the 4 core values, and as I suppose all of our interactions are done through that as well. So it's a very value-driven environment. We are absolutely not a sales at all costs business. We sell the right way, and that's something that we've been very strict on as we've moved in and grown our sales team. And we started only in 2014 with 3 people, and we've now got in the sales team total, including ops, around 100. So it's been quite a big journey over the last 3 years. A couple of the key things that we do is, as a business, we are set up around our training environment. The Sector Way Academy essentially covers all the different training, right the way through from our in-house customer service to our 76 engineers on the road in Ireland. And we do a mix of blended learning there. So there's things like e-learning, tutorials, we push it out to phones and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different platforms that we allow our people to learn through. And most recently, we moved the sales side of things into the PhoneWatch Sales Academy, which is what I look after. We essentially have done 2 main things. Firstly, we understand that getting into sales, having never done sales before maybe, can be quite a scary thing to do. Dealing with all that rejection, especially direct sales. The image is actually not usually how it works really. Most people are actually really nice. As a national brand, obviously, we have a huge weight in the market. Most people tend to know who we are, so it's quite an easy thing to open a conversation. But we put in place, to combat those fears and to help people get up to speed as quickly as possible, 2 main training systems. The first one is our Steps to Success. This is a 13-day, 12-day, 9 sessions, and these are cyclical sales sessions that take you from a beginning point where you may know nothing about sales, never done sales before, right the way through to a point where at the end of on your 13th day, you should be able to go out and be self-sufficient as a salesperson. Now, obviously, that's the beginning of most people's journey in sales education, but we feel and have tracked over the last year that brings people very much up to speed, and we've measured it against other sales training methodologies, and it's working quite well at the moment. But it is, as most things are, always a work in progress. We will take questions on this back at the main stand at the end as well. Most recently, and this is, I suppose, my baby, we developed our Future Leaders program. One of the key things that we want to do is bring people from a starting point of maybe knowing nothing and developing attitude and potential. I didn't have a sales experience before I started getting into sales. I have a degree in graphic design. I never really did anything with it. I pretty much figured about halfway through my graphic design degree that I didn't want to do graphic design as a career. When I came out of university, the opportunities in graphic design were slim. Back then, it was the mid-90s. You needed 2 years of experience, but you couldn't get your 2 years experience without getting a job. You didn't really do internships then, and even if they did exist, I couldn't have done it because I needed money, because I'd just come out of university. And somebody offered me a job selling coffee machines, which was miserable. Awful thing to do. I sat in a little room, about probably 4 meters square. Back then you could smoke in the office, and I smoked at the time. And we got free coffee, and we had a script and a yellow pages, golden pages in Ireland. That was our lead list. And one of us started, it was me and another guy, one of us started at A, one of us started at Z, and we met in the middle, and we did 300 sales pitches per day. That was my first ever introduction to sales, and as I said, it was pretty miserable. We don't want that to happen to the people that come to us, and we don't want it to take them 20 years to learn what we feel they need to, so we put the Future Leaders Program together. So far, we've had 24 people through the program. It runs twice a year, and it's based around developing leadership potential. Not everybody will progress into a leadership role, obviously. Some people figure out that they just want to keep selling, so we do have two sides to it. Out of those 24 people, currently we have 8 people who've moved into permanent leadership roles, running offices for us or leading teams in the field. So it's working really, really well at the moment. We're only in our second sort of term. We run 2 of these courses a year, and they last 5 months each. There are 2 modules a month in our head office up in Abbey Street. The leadership development side runs the full gamut right through from coaching, learning styles, understanding how to teach, which is obviously pretty important if you're a sales leader, and recruitment. And the sales excellence side focuses mainly around actually 2 sales models. So these are internationally recognized. One is a version of spin selling. If any of you have ever looked at that, it's called NOIB, Need, Origin, Impact, Benefit. So we actually teach a proper needs analysis system that can be cross-referenced in most sectors. Spin is set for high-value sales. NOIB covers sort of mid to low value, but can be adapted. And our objection handling model is called ACIOC. Everything in sales is an acronym, by the way. ACIOC stands for Accept, Clarify, Isolate, Overcome, and Close. These 2 sales methodologies are responsible probably for one of the largest rises in sales that we've ever had in the business, and they're working really successfully at the moment. That course, again, you have to apply for it. You have to run an assessment centre. You have to be accepted onto the course. We don't just take anybody who wants to be on it. There is a qualification to get there. But once you do make it onto that course, that's the pool of people that we tend to look at when we open new businesses or when we need to recruit into other areas of our business. Essentially, your path, I think probably through most things, to be honest, runs along this line. I shamelessly stole this from a speech, by the way. This, I can't claim, arrive, strive, thrive, and drive. I was listening to, I can't remember who it was. But essentially, pretty much everybody lands in the business and finds their feet. This is the same wherever you go. That's where you learn the basics of what you're doing. 70% of our learning as individuals is done on the job. 20% will be through peer-to-peer advice that you might get from people next to you or around you, and 10% is classroom-based, just so you're aware. So 70% of what we do is, as you see, done in the field. You earn and learn direct doing sales. Once you start to get to a level where you want to progress and you figured out that this is something that you want to do, then you get the application with us to move into the Future Leaders Program, and from there on move into a driving position within our business. I don't drive the business. Our CEO will actively tell you he doesn't really drive the business. Our business thrives on the people that are out interacting with our customers and doing our sales. We are a direct sales-led organisation. That's pretty much it from me. I can take some questions if anybody wants for a couple of minutes. We do have, as I said, our recruitment team are on our stand halfway down on the left-hand side there. But apart from that, I'm finished. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. A day in the life of a salesperson. I did actually see that on the leaflet. I only got this yesterday, so apologies. So a day in the life of a salesperson, it depends what sector you're in. If it's a residential salesperson, essentially most guys will go into our sales offices around lunchtime. We have the structured training takes place, pioneered by our field sales managers, so they will run that generally for about an hour max. Really interactive. We've lots of different type quizzes and that kind of thing. A lot of role play based stuff, and then we head out into the field. They generally will work between about 3:30 and 9. Because obviously we're direct, so we'll go and speak to people in their own homes. Most of our sales are done between 6 and 9. Anybody else? Quietly got my fingers crossed there. Excellent, thanks very much.